Welcome to Trans Truth, the podcast dedicated to dispelling myths, fear, and ignorance about transgender people. From time to time, we'll also be sharing items of interest to the transgender community, from political and news events to health, fashion, and beauty. Also, please be sure to follow and share the Trans Truth podcast. And now, here is some news and commentary that should be of interest to our listeners. As we reported in our last episode, Texas District Court Judge Maria Cantu-Hexel had blocked Senate Bill 14, the law that would have banned virtually all evidence-based gender-affirming care for minors suffering from gender dysphoria in Texas. That judge actually considered the opinion of experts on those patients and the standards of care and issued the temporary injunction. She wrote that Senate Bill 14, quote, interferes with Texas families' private decisions and strips Texas parents of the right to seek, direct, and provide medical care for their children, unquote. We are sad to now report that, as promised, the Texas Attorney General's office filed an appeal, which will be heard by the Texas Supreme Court, an all-Republican elected body. That body refused to issue an emergency injunction while the legal battle plays out, thus ensuring that the law went into effect on September 1st, ignoring Judge Cantu-Hexel's caution that transgender youth and their families would suffer probable, imminent, and irreparable injury if this is allowed to go into effect. Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican of Tennessee, has co-sponsored a bill that pretends to protect children from the dangers of social media and has suggested that the measure would steer kids away from seeking transgender content online. She recently spoke to the conservative group Family Policy Alliance about her Kids Online Safety Act.
What do you think is the top issue that they should be watching and the top issue that conservatives should be taking action on right now?
Well, there are a couple of things. Of course, protecting minor children from the transgender and this culture and that influence. And I would add to that, watching what's happening on social media. And I've got the Kids Online Safety Act that I think we're going to end up getting through probably this summer. This would put a duty of care and responsibility on the social media platforms. And this is where children are being indoctrinated. They're hearing things at school, and then they're getting onto YouTube to watch a video, and all of a sudden this comes to them. And they're on Snapchat or they're on Instagram, and they click on something, and the next thing you know, they're being inundated with it. Parents need to be watching this, teachers need to be watching, and protecting our children and making certain that they are not exposed to things that they are emotionally not mature enough to handle.
There are those trigger phrases yet again. Protecting children from the transgender, indoctrination, inundation, protect the children from things they are emotionally unprepared to handle. You know, things like the truth. Senator Blackburn is clearly among the many ill-informed right-wing nuts who believe that schools and social media are causing kids to be transgender. That's not how it works, Senator, and what you are doing is only going to keep them from learning that they are not bad or broken. Most troubling of all, says trans advocate Erin Reed, is the fact that the Kids Online Safety Act is being endorsed by many Democratic lawmakers and President Biden. Trans Truth has reached out to the White House for comment. Widely reported in local news outlets in the Houston area last week was the 4-3 decision by the Katy ISD board to adopt a new policy that will require school personnel to report a student's gender preferences, names, and pronouns to the student's parents if those preferences don't match those on the student's official record. The assumption, once again, being made by the proponents of this latest anti-transgender campaign is that parents will want to know about such a shocking turn of events, and that parents will know how best to cope with it. There are two things wrong with that assumption. One, if parents were doing their job in the first place, they'd already know about something as important as their child's gender dysphoria. And two, a lot of parents will be ill-equipped to deal with this appropriately. Ignorance about gender dysphoria abounds, and it is safe to say that more than one child will be placed in danger, emotionally and or physically, by parents who will try to cure or to just plain beat the gay out of their child. Yes, it will. It happens every day, and the 80% suicide rate for trans kids is ample evidence of that. In a state like Texas, where school officials are required to report suspected abuse, this policy makes exactly no sense at all. It will cause a measurable increase in the suffering of transgender students. So why was this policy enacted without a requirement for intervention and education to accompany such notification? And finally, oh my God, wait until you hear this one.
I was 15 when I had my breast surgically removed.
It's the most controversial story this year.
Children are being told they should change from boy to girl or girl to boy from as young as 12 years old.
Thousands of kids are doing it and regretting it.
I've gone through a medical catastrophe.
And parents are being kept in the dark.
No children should be transitioning without the parents' knowledge and consent.
I believe our children are being lied to.
These are life-changing decisions being made before our kids have any idea of the consequences.
Is a generation being brainwashed?
It's a medical scandal.
When we reached out to the bosses who run these clinics, all we got was silence.
Urged on by social media. But it's confused kids that are paying the price.
I was just looking for a sense of belonging.
7 News Spotlight on 7 and 7 Plus.
Clearly, the outright lies being promulgated by right-wing hate groups are not unique to the United States. Let us say it again. These are all lies being told by groups who benefit from such fear-mongering. This is not an epidemic. Thousands of kids are not doing this and regretting it. Children are not being told to change their gender. When decent human beings are doing the telling, they are being told the truth. That some people are uncomfortable with the body that they were born with, or with the changes that will come about as they reach puberty, and that is okay, and if they want, steps can be taken to keep those changes from happening until they are certain about what it is they do want. Children are not being mutilated. Minors receive non-reversible interventions, such as surgeries, in only the rarest of cases. Regret is virtually non-existent in patients who received gender-affirming care after thorough evaluation. Again, all lies. Don't believe us? Ask Grace Hyland, the Australian transgender content creator whose image was used as a part of the montage in the promotional video we just played audio from, showing children who later regretted transitioning. Said Hyland, "My care by the Royal Children's Hospital was held with the utmost diligence, and I am forever grateful." So she had no regrets at all, but they used her picture in their video. Again, lies. The truth is that the stories like Hyland's make up 99% of the patients who receive gender-affirming care. Hello again, and welcome back to Trans Truth. This is episode 18, Transphobia Revisited, part 2. So, Jeri Ann, we're still talking about transphobia?
Yes.
Well, they seem pretty scared.
Yeah. Is that a pitchfork? Holy cow! Where's security?
Yeah. Well, we're locked in here in our own little online room. I think we're okay.
Okay.
I have some more surveys and statistics and stuff, but you touched on something in part 1 that we should probably dig into right now, and that is religious objections. And it's been my experience that when you get a hater to engage and explain exactly what their objections are to the existence of, well, for example, transgender people, they'll first throw up all the cliche arguments like it's woke propaganda, they're all child abusers, it's just plain immoral. And you can dismiss most of those with facts, whether or not those facts will be acknowledged. But it's on the last one that they seem to dig in their heels. And eventually they end up resorting to that perennial chestnut because the Bible says so. And if they're particularly well read when it comes to Christian scripture, they'll even cite chapter and verse, Deuteronomy 22:5, which says quite plainly, well, at least in one particular translation of the complete and unerring word of God, quote, "A woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God," unquote. That seems like a pretty straightforward proscription against being a cross-dresser. Now, I like to think I'm pretty well read on various religions, but my co-host has degrees in the field and has been an ordained minister. So, Jeri Ann, are you now preaching against religion, or at least Bible passages?
Well, that's two questions. I preach against religion. I ran across something humorous on Facebook today, and it said that spirituality is a personal relationship with the divine, and religion is crowd control.
I love that.
So, if all you do is just go sit in your usual spot on the same pew every Sunday and try and stay awake, or mentally go through your grocery list, or whatever you do, and you think that is some kind of spiritual experience, then I got news for you. That's only religion, and religion is a construct of man, and a lot of times has very little to do with God, even though supposedly is based on scriptures like the one you just quoted. Now, when you interpret writing, I don't care if it's in the Bible or any other kind of literature, it's helpful to know who wrote it, who are they writing to? What's going on at the time? And what exactly are they trying to say? So, unfortunately, a lot of religious people will belly up to the Bible verse buffet and pick and choose what they want out of those sacred texts and form a belief system and religion around it. Earlier today, I just, out of curiosity, I asked Alexa, what is the difference between spirituality and religion? And she said that spirituality is a personal belief system and relationship with a spiritual and or divine entity. And religion is a social system based on rules and regulations that supposedly are based on holy writings. So, let's look at.
Go ahead. Well, okay. I was going to say, I learned that if it's a religion that's based on Holy Writ, some supposed collection of the one true and unerring Word of God, it's a revealed religion. In other words, somebody at some point wrote this stuff down and said they transcribed it word for word from what God told them to write. Whether they wrote it down on clay tablets or copper scrolls or golden plates in North America, it was supposedly revealed to someone. But real quick, let's get back to the one passage I cited. That's the only thing that even mentions wearing the clothes of the opposite gender, is it not?
Yeah. Yes.
One sentence.
In all 66 books of the Bible, which is a library, a bibliography, so to speak.
So
wait, get this, written over 1,500 years by approximately 40 different authors in 3 original languages. That's the only verse. Now, it would seem that Moses had a problem with people cross-dressing, but there's no account in all of the Exodus, the story of Moses, talking to God through a burning bush and going to Egypt, telling the Pharaoh, "Let my people go," and the 10 plagues and crossing the Red Sea and 40 years in the wilderness and all that kind of stuff. Not one time is it ever mentioned that Moses had a problem with cross-dressers or transgender people or anything else. What Deuteronomy actually is, this is the end of Moses' leading the people. Moses is, I think he's 120 years old, and he was disobedient, and so God's not going to let him lead the people in the promised land. He's got to transfer the leadership over to Joshua. And so Moses wants to talk to the people before he goes. And so Deuteronomy is Moses' farewell speech to the people of Israel, or the Israelites. Now, when I say people of Israel, understand that the country of Israel didn't exist yet. They were called the children of Israel because they were descendants of the man that God named as Israel. It was, let's see, Israel is the name that God gave Jacob, who had 12 sons, who were the beginning of the 12 tribes of Israel. So when I say children of Israel, I'm talking about a group of people, not yet a nationality. So Moses is given this farewell speech, and it's actually done in 3 different sessions. He's an old man. I guess he had to take a bathroom break or something. I don't know. But the recurring theme in all of that. Now, Deuteronomy, it's wrongfully called the second giving of the law. It's not actually giving of the law. This is Moses reminding the people of what God has done for them in the previous 40 years, beginning with the Exodus from Egypt, and what he expects of them in the future. But a recurring problem that he did have with the people was turning back to pagan worship. Think about it. The people were in Egypt for 400 years. Jacob brought his 11 sons. The 12th was already there. And they set up housekeeping because there was famine in Canaan. And so they went to the Nile Delta because they had to have grass for their cattle and just needed some water and fertile land and what have you. And they were welcome there. But as time went on, after being there for 400 years, the people picked up some pagan worship. And it drove Moses crazy because he tried to instill the belief system that I think God wanted him to, because he had him build a tabernacle and all that kind of stuff. But every time he turned around, they were resorting to pagan worship, the golden calf and all that kind of stuff. And every single time they did that, Moses had a hissy fit. And several times he told them that that was an abomination. Okay, so that brings us to Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5, where it says, women do not wear a men's garment. There was a pagan ritual where they got all worked up in a frenzy. They go off in the bushes somewhere, I'm assuming, and have sex. And then when they were done, instead of putting your own clothes back on, they put each other's clothes on. And so that's what that verse is referring to the best of my research, that Moses never had a problem with cross-dressers or transgender people, but he did have a problem with this pagan worship.
Yeah, I told y'all that she was going to explain all this in very academic detail. Go on.
Okay, well, I have searched the Bible in various ways by reading different translations and Google search and reference books. You remember what books were? Made out of paper. You call it dead trees.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never found any reference to that. Now, let me tell you this. A lot of very conservative Christians will use any verse that refers to morality as talking about transgender people. That's how they will twist and turn Bible verses to match up with their own devised religion and their own belief system.
How come they never pick on people that like shellfish or wear polycotton underwear? They never talk about them.
No. And there is a verse that says you cannot eat fish without scales, which would rule out southern fried catfish or shrimp.
Yep.
Yeah, there is a verse that says do not weave two fabrics together. There is a verse that says don't plant two different kinds of seeds in the same place. So, yeah, there's all kinds of
you can't even eat chicken fried steak.
No. So, yeah, but when you belly up to the Bible verse buffet and you get to choose, then you walk away with what you need to conform to your perceived value system. So that's pretty much it. An area pastor here in Houston asked me to take over a Bible study for him one night, and he was going to be out of town, and they had saved that the particular topic for that night that I was going to lead that Bible study. And that was it. It was transgender people in the Bible.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
And that's exactly what I revealed to this class. That is the only thing that even comes close, and it's not even what it's talking about.
Nevertheless, like I said, when you really dig into the haters' objections and corner them into why this is immoral, what's your fundamental objection, they're gonna whip out that scripture if they're well read enough. Otherwise, they're just gonna say, well, it's in the Bible. Now, steering the conversation back around to transphobia and the right-wing campaign to exploit fear of, well, this week, trans people, the other. You and I talked about some of the things that are foundational to most religions.
Yes. Even before Abraham was called out of Ur by the one true God. Abraham is the father of the three major religions on the planet: Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. But even before that city of Ur has been excavated by archaeologists. And if you take just the large public buildings, you have small residences, and you have obviously public buildings. 1/4 of the public buildings were places of worship. They were temples, and in that culture, they worshipped the moon god Nanar and the sun god. I can't remember the name of their sun god, but yeah.
So that's one of the foundation stones.
Places.
They have a holy place, a temple or altar or whatever.
A holy place. Yeah. Almost all religions have the same 5 components: a holy place, a holy person in charge, their holy artifacts that more or less decorate the place, holy or sacred writings that are supposedly followed, and the 5th component that you see, but you seldom see written down. Some religions actually do, but not all of them, is there has to be an enemy.
Aha.
It appears that all religions have to have an enemy. Think about it. The Jews hated the Samaritans. You go back even before that. The Medes hated the Greeks. The Greeks had the Greek gods and all that kind of stuff. In more modern time, more contemporary times, Baptists didn't have a use for Catholics, and vice versa. So you know who the demons were in Baptist church when I was a child? Divorcees.
Oh my God, yeah.
If a woman got divorced, she had to leave the church. Her husband or ex-husband could stay, but she was damaged goods and had to leave the church.
Back in my day, that it was even worse for Catholics. If you were a divorced Catholic, you got cut off. You didn't get excommunicated, but you were prohibited from receiving the sacraments. Anyway.
Yeah. There seems to be a need for someone to hate, and I use the word hate. Not everybody has hatred in their heart towards other human beings, but there is a lot of bigotry going on within religions, and marginalizing people, and to the point where the value systems that come out of religions certainly affect our laws, and here in the last few years we've seen trans people being legislated against.
And we're steering this back towards transgender issues, but coming at it from the angle of religious objections, I've got two or three kind of rhetorical questions. And the first one is, why do these religions all share a need for an enemy? Just let me get them all out. Why have many religions spawned so much bloodshed and suffering? And why do so many churches in the U.S. preach against, tell lies about the LGBTQ plus community?
Well, a couple of those questions are very closely related. So why they have a need for an enemy? Well, think about it. If you convince someone that there's an enemy, and then you promise to protect them against that enemy, then you will have a fellowship.
That's like a power play.
So, yeah, it's a power play. It's a form of blackmail. You scare people, but then you reassure them that you're safe here. You're safe with me. So come here on a regular basis. And by the way, give generously so we can pay the bills, kind of thing. Instill fear in people who don't know any better. Convince them over and over and over that the enemy is dangerous to your children, dangerous to your women, dangerous to maybe our way of life. I don't know, but there's no end to the ways you can instill fear in people and the reasonings behind that. But let's go to your third question too. Why do so many churches in the U.S. preach against, actually tell lies about the LGBTQ plus community? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The LGBTQ plus community and particularly transgender people right now are the enemy, the popular enemy.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. All right, there's a lot of ways I could state it, but yeah, it's the popular enemy right now. Think about it. Transgender people are helpless. How are you going to fight back? I mean, you and I are fighting back. That's why we call this project that we have committed our lives to Trans Truth. We're not going to say anything in our podcast that is not the truth. And even if it's a topic that we're not real familiar with, we have researched it thoroughly. We have looked at it from every angle, and to the best of our knowledge and the best of our belief, it is the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yeah, I think the church's use of defining an enemy as a power play kind of goes hand in hand with the Republican Party and other right-wing hate groups campaign of propaganda that does the same thing, that chooses an enemy, a social issue, something, to convince their followers that this is a threat to mom and apple pie and the entire American way of life, and only we can protect you from it. It's, I think we mentioned the book, The Righteous Mind, before?
Several episodes back, we have made mention of that.
Long and short of it is that there is a school of thought among psychologists and sociologists that there is a type of personality that needs to have someone be the moral authority. They are not comfortable making their own judgments on what is right and what is wrong. So they will actively seek out someone who will do that for them. Wow, what a gift to a propagandist.
Yep. Yep. And I want you to think about this, Kelly. The Republican Party is actually a form of religion.
Well, I've heard people say that the MAGA people are definitely a cult.
Yeah. Well, but and even the Democratic Party. I mean, political parties to most extent are just like a religion. They are more or less belief systems. Now, it seems like within the Democratic Party, liberals, you have, by the very nature of liberal people, more free thinkers than you do just strict blind followers, that need to be told what to believe. It's weird. I don't know if you know any really staunch conservatives, but they propose to believe something that they've heard on a news network, and they'll use the language that they heard on the television.
Oh,
for
yeah.
crying out loud! I mean, they didn't always believe this. They didn't always use this language. But the one that tickles me is the word woke. It's by the way they use the word in within sentence structure, and the way the word is pronounced. They have actually made woke a four-letter word.
That reminds me. I don't know if you saw my update, but we have finally received our first online review for Trans Truth.
I saw that.
Yeah, and it wasn't very flattering, but I'm paraphrasing, but the reviewer accused us of peddling woke propaganda and a few other silly things. But so yeah. Woke is bad. Okay.
On Facebook, somebody posted sometime back a picture of Jesus, and the caption says, "I'm woke, like
the wokest,
I'm the wokest."
Well, there is some good news. There are a bunch of studies actually that are showing a marked decrease in church membership. I don't know if that can be extrapolated to say that Christian churchgoers are not finding what they need in churches, but we do have a study that indicates that's exactly what's happening. So people are less involved in organized religion, and the biggest drop off is in the Christian population. And we've linked those two studies. They'll be in the episode notes for this episode. But I see that as kind of, I don't want to say it's a mixed blessing, but it certainly doesn't hurt that people are rejecting an authority that is telling them to hate us.
Yeah, but I'm afraid they're staying home from church, watching Fox News.
Well, that could be.
So listen, I wrote a paper on this some years ago. Let's see, about 11 years ago, I think. And it is my thinking that there are two big reasons why church attendance is dropping. The first reason is churches nowadays they present an event ministry. Every Sunday morning, it's an event, and it's scripted. They've got that church bulletin or that program. They have had rehearsals during the week with the music, and it is a lockstep scripted program and what have you. And it becomes just simply an event to attend. Now, I don't know about you, but if you go to an event enough, you just get enough. and the event no longer meets your needs. Another reason why church is falling off is there's so many distractions in this day and age. Think about it. I mean, even TV with all the streamings. I mean, you can stream just about any movie or program known to man on your TV in your living room or every room in your house probably. There's another reason too. I think that a lot of times people go to church because they have a spiritual need. They're hurting, or maybe something is missing in their life, and they are actually looking for some kind of relief from their angst. And I'm gonna give you a personal illustration of that. Growing up, we never went to church. Never, ever. Didn't belong to a church. Didn't even go on Easter or Christmas. But when my brother was ill, he was in a coma for 6 months and wasted away. My parents sought some relief to their angst, and they sought out a church and started going to a church. And it came in handy because there was a minister to preach at his funeral. So I think a lot of people go with a need, and more these churches are not meeting people's spiritual needs. I think that if churches actually taught their doctrine, their ancient text, their Messiah's message, that and actually preached the truth and what they preached to match the teachings. And I'm talking about, love God, love your neighbor kind of thing. Then I think you could hold on to more people. But I think people see how phony church really is, and they just lose faith.
Yep. Well, we have been beaten up on religion and churchianity. That I love that term. Jeri Ann invented that, I think.
Well, let me put it this way. I did my doctoral studies in Bible and theology, and I probably am a much stronger believer now than I ever was as a result of that study. But don't you dare call me religious.
Fair enough. So
you call me spiritual, just don't call me religious.
So I'm going to try and spin this back around in a positive direction and say, or ask, how do we fix all this transphobia? How do we fight this campaign of propaganda and disinformation?
Well, you might know my strategy, my tactics. I go deep behind enemy lines and dwell amongst them, and I let them see that I'm not only just another human being, but I'm a human being with value, and I can bring something to the table.
I thought you were going to say pie diplomacy, but I guess that's part of your operational doctrine.
I went to a meeting last night, armed with 2 banana puddings, 2 chocolate pies, 2 key lime pies, and a pound cake, and an apple crisp.
Well, and that's where I was headed with this is we've talked about this before. Nothing normalizes us like ambassadorship, like showing people that we are just like them. Nothing more, nothing less. There's nothing scary about us. We breathe the same air and we walk the same earth. And I think it's important for every one of us, transgender people, non-binary people, and of course our allies, to actually walk the walk, to be out there showing that we are normal. And the other thing I think is education. And that's a big lift when we're working against common sense. We talked about this in part one, that the whole idea of gender being different from biological sex works against common sense. I mean, it's what we have been taught. The whole idea that they can be two different things is barely a few decades old in at least Western culture. So, yeah, education. Arm yourself with accurate, up-to-date information.
Well, the occurrence of transgender people dates back to the beginning of time. That's not just a couple of decades old, but the notion of what that really is, and perhaps why that's relatively new.
Yeah.
It's just like being born crippled or with a learning disability or a mental disorder or something like that. It's always been there.
It has.
In ancient times, they thought it was because you might be demon possessed. Actually, in biblical times, they thought that it was a result of the sins of the parent. So,
got to blame somebody.
Yeah. Nowadays, scientists, psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors of all kinds, they know better. They know better.
And it's like Western science was one of the last to figure it out. There are so many cultures around the world, even a lot of Native American cultures, that recognize the two-spirit, the bigender nature of some people. Well, what do you think? We've been at this for better than a half hour now. We're about ready to wrap up.
I'm exhausted.
Okay. Yeah, this is hard work talking for this long. So I guess it's time for this episode's trans truism. And it actually comes in the form of a question. Aren't drag queens, cross-dressers, and transsexuals all the same thing?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, that gets me riled up. No, not even close. Not even close. You want me to tell you why it's not even close? Okay.
Reel it off.
All right. Drag queens are typically men who identify as male, but who perform as females, typically as a caricature of cis women, using exaggerated costumes, wigs, and makeup. And yeah, there's some male to female trans women who perform in drag, but they are relatively rare exception. And the whole drag thing evolved out of the gay community.
It did.
So what was the next one? Cross-dressers. Okay, well, I've never been a cross-dresser. Well, I was when I was trying to pretend to be a male, because that's what everybody thought I was for most of my life. I was actually cross-dressing then as a male, but that's probably for another episode. But cross-dressers are men who identify as male, but who, for various reasons, like to wear various items of women's clothing, and maybe even hairstyles and wigs, and makeup. For many, the drive is a fetish, maybe sexual in nature, things like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But there is some need to do that. It could even be a tactile, sensory type thing with certain fabrics that are common to women's lingerie or women's clothing and things like that.
Right.
So that's a cross-dresser. They don't want to become a female. Now, let's give fair time. If a woman wears men's clothes, she's cross-dressing, but somehow that's way more accepted.
Yep, at least since the 1940s.
Yeah, since the World War II.
Yeah. Well, and that just leaves those of us who really suffer from gender dysphoria. And
why don't you take that one?
It's a whole different kettle of fish. If you suffer from gender dysphoria, you're not comfortable with the body you were born with. That manifests itself in different individuals to different extents. Sometimes it comes early on in life. We know that one of our used-to-be neighbors, Kai Shapley, knew from the time and told everybody from the time she was 3 years old, I'm a girl. Yep. Some of us, it takes longer. I convinced myself that I was a cross-dresser for a long time. But it's not about the clothes. If you're trans, it's about who you are and how you live your life.
And that gender dysphoria is not speaking only to your body. It's to everything. It's the dysphoria involves the desire to live the life.
Yeah.
And think the thoughts and everything that goes into our being.
I get, you and I both, most trans women are misgendered from time to time. And that's how, that's one way that it manifests. I didn't used to be bothered by being called dude. I am now.
Yep.
You have been listening to Trans Truth, the podcast that speaks the truth about what it means to be transgender. If you are transgender yourself, you have a friend or loved one who is transgender, or if you are simply looking to understand more about the transgender experience, we hope that you have found this episode to be informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us at info@transtruth.info. Copyright 2023 Trans Truth.